My name is Angelique, and I've just graduated from college. I'm a newbie at my job, undergoing the standard new employee training, akin to orientation, on my day off. My best friend, whom I've known since kindergarten and all through high school, asked me about it with curiosity. Though we attended the same college, we pursued different majors. She continued on to grad school, so she's keen on my transition into working adult life. You won't believe it, I said, recounting my experience. We start with a morning run every day as part of building our stamina. Really? Everyone, she exclaimed, evidently surprised by the rigor. It seems so. It's like a first taste of the toughness of working life. Unless there's a specific reason, everyone up to their second year participates. Those with 3 years or more are exempt. But still, about half of the entire company joins in. The other half opts for activities like crosswords or brain training exercises. Whoa, interesting. I totally skipped the exercise part though, she chuckled, amused. Our company motto is also unique, I continued. It's something like always be healthy, work hard, play hard, and live a long, active life. So, for the first 30 minutes after starting work, we have time for physical and mental exercises. That is really unique, she remarked. I can interact with people from all ages and departments. It feels like an extension of a club or group in school. It's fun. I really do love the company I've joined. But don't you seem kind of tired? You're really observant, I replied, somewhat taken aback by her sharp observation. Yes, overall the atmosphere at the company is okay. But there is one, if not the only colossal obstacle, a supremely arrogant individual who stands in my way. You want to quit? She asked, concerned. Oh, I see. Just as I thought, you lack determination. I smiled, shaking my head. The woman who is my manager is complaining bitterly on a call with a part-timer who has been absent for a few days. Her loud voice, meant to be heard, seems to be filled with malice, pushing the other person into a corner. The manager, whispered as the queen of damaging sighs, has the destructive power to completely demoralize the person on the receiving end of her tirade, I explained. She's like, I'm taking a break, and then all of a sudden doesn't show up for days, neglecting her duties. And now she says she's quitting. How carefree. Just because she's part-time doesn't mean I'll let her get away with this. I'll push her to the very end. This goes beyond sarcasm. It's downright terrifying, I continued. The last day the part-timer came in, I noticed her body stiffened, tears welling up in her eyes. What's wrong? Are you okay? I asked. She had been scolded by the manager again. She was trembling as she spoke. It must have taken a lot of courage for her to make this phone call. Since the manager has no choice but to accept her resignation, it would be better to just let her go without any more sarcastic remarks. It's been about a month since I joined the company. Considering that the first week was just going around and learning from all the departments in the company, I've encountered similar situations twice in the short span of 3 weeks, I sighed. It's so inconvenient. She hardly does her work and just drags everyone down. All I'm doing is pointing that out. The manager, secretly referred to as the empress in the company, always has deep wrinkles between her eyebrows. It takes effort to replace her. It's only natural that she should have the consideration to find a replacement and finish the handover before she quits, right? The tension spreads among the employees present as the manager seeks agreement, I explained. Everyone pretended to be focused on their work, nodding without making eye contact with the manager. However, she caught on. You seem to have a problem, she said, as I recalled the face of the part-timer. I found myself ensnared in the scrutinizing gaze of the empress. I'll ask you once you receive your salary. You should take responsibility for your work, right? Yes, I replied, feeling the weight of her deliberate question. There seemed to be no other option but to agree, and the manager knew it, directing the inquiry squarely at me. Do you think it's okay to act selfishly in the workplace? She continued. No, but selfishness is the enemy of work, right? I started to argue back, but her loud voice cut me off. In the end, I wasn't allowed to say anything. I regretted my inability to intervene for the crying part-timer and that I simply let the manager have her way. That's bound to stress you out. I'm sorry, I just keep complaining. I was supposed to be bragging about the company, but before I knew it, it was all just one-sided complaints. I lamented to my friend. It's okay, you can't keep things bottled up, and it's not your fault. If you resist too much, you'll be the next target. A manager who mixes up power and authority is the worst. Be careful not to get on her bad side, okay? She warned, offering solace. Thanks, I replied, feeling grateful for her understanding. Then I broached the main topic about the trip. I think I can cover the cost with my part-time job savings from college and my first paycheck. I'm thinking of taking my grandparents to the resort you told me about before. Do you think they'll be pleased? This was the real issue I wanted to discuss. She was well informed about traveling, having done so extensively with her family. Of course, the end is one that even my picky grandmother was completely satisfied with. You can't go wrong, she assured me with a smile. I'm glad. I really want to make it a good memory since we're doing it, I expressed, feeling relieved. I had been planning a trip with my grandparents using the money I had diligently saved up. They were the ones who raised me in place of my parents who passed away when I was young. I wanted to give something back to the two of them who always put me first and supported me, so I had been saving money from part-time jobs since my college days. Seeing my friend smile, my cheeks also relaxed. However, it was Friday afternoon, the day before the trip. I was summoned by the manager and approached her desk. Classify these by category and analyze them. They're documents to be used at the beginning of next week, she instructed, her lips adorned with unusually bright lipstick and a smug smile etched on her face. I blinked in surprise as I saw the pile of thick documents before me. You want me to analyze this by the end of the break? I asked, incredulous. There were several binders, each one incredibly heavy, and they were all disorganized. Just sorting and classifying them alone would likely consume the entire day, let alone analyzing them on top of that. To my bewilderment, the manager responded with a victorious air. I'm glad you understand my orders. You've been ignoring instructions recently, you see. Unable to hold back the unreasonable accusations, I decided to stand my ground. I hate to point out, but it's Friday and there are barely 2 hours left until the end of the day. It's simply impossible to finish these documents by the beginning of next week. I attempted to remain calm, but ever since our part-time worker left, the manager seemed to have singled me out for intensified harassment. She excluded me from office memos, issued incorrect instructions, and then blamed me for misunderstanding. On top of that, she dumped an unmanageable amount of work on me, which clashed with my long-awaited vacation plans. It seemed like my objections didn't bother the manager at all. You're going to use it at the beginning of the week, right? It's fine if you come in over the weekend to finish it. Oh, and just to let you know, these documents are confidential, so don't take them home. Please, wait a second. I tried to argue, but the manager interrupted. I have a meeting soon, and I'm leaving directly from here today, before leaving the pile of documents on the desk and walking out. The next day, my planned trip with my grandparents lay under the expansive sky. As they noticed my stifled yawns, they grew concerned. Are you okay? Staying up all night and then going on a trip? Maybe we should have canceled. I'm fine, don't worry. I was really looking forward to this trip today, I reassured them. Yeah, I could sense their worry knowing I had worked all night and rushed home just in time for our departure. I couldn't let my fatigue dampen our special trip. No, this won't do. It's a special trip, so I have to make it enjoyable. I mustered up some cheer and directed a smile toward my grandparents. Look at this view, it's amazing. The sea is so beautiful. Don't worry about me. I worked hard so that I could enjoy delicious food, soak in the hot spring, and sleep soundly on a fluffy bed. My attempt at lightheartedness seemed to relax them, and they began to enjoy the scenery with relieved expressions. But amidst the enjoyment, a nightmare awaited me. Did you finish the job I asked for? You didn't quit, did you? A familiar voice startled me as I strolled alone in the inn after checking in. Why here of all places? I muttered to myself, but the manager, seemingly reading my thoughts, snorted and left. I ruined your weekend to teach you a lesson. I thought it was unlikely, but as I thought, you ignored my instructions, didn't you? The manager's words felt like a curse, and I was overcome with dizziness. The thought of being given work to ruin my vacation filled me with anger. But how did you know about my plans? I asked, astonished. You were chattering away during break time. Where are you going? When are you going? Oh, I'm so jealous. You were so pleased being praised by everybody. It was hilarious, she replied casually, revealing her eavesdropping habits. Realizing that my innocuous chats with colleagues were being carefully listened to, I felt the chill. Besides, I'm surprised. This ain't is too good for you, she continued, her tone dripping with disdain. Excuse me? I responded, confused. You don't get it. It's an eyesore to see commoners wandering around. Look, there's a rundown inn next door that's more your style, she sneered. I don't understand what you mean. I know you find me an eyesore, but the rest is just insults and harassment, right? I retorted, feeling my anger rise. Just as my frustration reached its peak, a voice of support came from behind me. Is that what this is about? My grandparents had arrived, standing by my side. The people whom I thought were peacefully drinking tea in the room were suddenly standing behind me. Judging from their expressions, they must have overheard almost all of my conversation with the manager. I began hurriedly, but my grandfather cut me off and addressed the manager. Nice to meet you. I'm Angelique's grandfather and have been her guardian for many years. Perhaps it's quicker to tell you that I'm the honorary chairman of the trading company that was discussing a deal with your company the other day. At those words, the manager's face turned pale. The honorary chairman of the industry, but your name is different from this employee's. Yes, she goes by her maternal family name. Otherwise, she would be viewed differently as a member of a famous company's founding family, right? My grandfather explained calmly. I don't want my precious granddaughter to have a tough time at the company where she works. I'm terribly sorry, I had no idea, the manager stammered, her face growing even paler. Do you think ignorance excuses rudeness? My grandfather queried. In contrast to my grandfather's calm demeanor, the manager was sweating profusely and frozen in place. I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to relay a message to your company CEO. I'm not interested in doing business with a company that has a manager like you. Well, wait a minute, please, the manager exclaimed, but my grandfather ignored her pleas. My granddaughter joined a company with a great motto: stay healthy, work hard, play hard, and live a long life. I thought the existence of quirky managers was necessary for the growth of the company. But your personality and behavior are harmful, he concluded. If you disagree with what I say, you can ignore it or spread bad rumors about me. My granddaughter has been recording all of this with her camera. Let's see whose side the world is on. With that, he left the scene. As my grandfather had said, I had been recording from the beginning of the trip with a camera hanging around my neck, capturing memories with my grandparents. I had forgotten, but the camera was still rolling at that moment. I began, uncertain of how to react. The manager, trembling, tried to cling to my grandfather but was bluntly told, "It's too late now," and collapsed on the spot. Wait a minute, can't you do something to help? She pleaded, turning to me for assistance after being coldly brushed off by my grandfather. I refuse. You always say there's nothing a newbie like me can do, I retorted, returning the sarcasm she had given me just the other day. Despite my anger, I managed to keep it in check and even flashed a smile. Yeah, I could probably be an actress too, I thought to myself. Then at the start of the week at work, there was an issue with the manager. The executive who led the running club stood tall in our department since the morning. Our company credo is to practice living healthily, working well, playing well, and living a long life. We welcome hard work, but that doesn't mean forcing people to work, especially not if it compromises their physical and mental health. Executives who dump unreasonable amounts of work on their subordinates are merely showing their lack of managerial skills. The managing director's voice echoed throughout the floor. Excuse me? The manager, seemingly taken aback by being attacked first thing in the morning, was about to ask something calmly while clenching her fist. But the executive continued, Here, we have the time cards from last Friday to today. There were 5 employees who came to work on Friday and stayed until Saturday morning. 3 people worked on their days off on Saturday and Sunday. And this morning, Angelique came in early. The manager seemed more and more perplexed as she was presented with these records. What does that mean? She asked, her tone uncertain. I addressed the confused manager, prompted by the managing director. If I may, you instructed me to finish organizing and analyzing a massive amount of data by the start of the week and told me to work during holidays if necessary. But it was impossible for me alone. Just then, the executive happened to pass by, so I consulted with the people around me. With cooperation across departments, we managed to complete the task as you instructed, spending the amount of time and manpower I just explained. Since the running club members who helped this time were present at the executives' meeting, I took the opportunity to thank them again. I only worked from Friday night to Saturday morning and early this morning after returning from the trip, so I was hardly any help. But thank you so much for helping me, I added, bowing. In response, I received kind words such as, we help each other out in times of trouble. And that's what running buddies are for. The manager finally seemed to grasp the situation, and this time she came at me, crossing departments. "You say I didn't authorize such a thing," she accused, seeming intent on blaming me for overstepping her authority. "I approved it," declared the managing director. At these words, the manager was frozen in shock. The newbie in the running group, who always had a smile on her face, was in deep trouble, I heard someone murmur. Upon hearing the situation, I found out they'd been burdened with an absurd workload. It would have been fine to leave it be, but since it was work necessary for the company, I took charge and gained everyone's cooperation. I apologized for the post-approval, but first, the managing director's stare bore into the manager. I can't forgive the base motives behind burdening a hard-working employee who's trying to be filial to their grandparents with an impossible task just for harassment, were the most forceful words I'd ever heard the managing director say. His face softened a bit. The other day, my grandchild who visited me cooked up some fried eggs. Heaven recently learned how to make them. They were overly charred and even had eggshells in them, a real mess. But it was the first time my grandchild had cooked something with such dedication. To me, it was the best feast ever, he shared, overlapping his feelings for his grandchild with the sentiments a supervisor should have for their subordinates. Despite the kitchen being a complete mess from my grandchild's cooking, my wife was in high spirits all day. That's just how it is. When I told them it was delicious, the proud smile on the young face was the most endearing thing. The managing director continued, his unexpected story bringing tears to the employees' eyes as they shared memories of their own grandparents. "I still can't forget the taste of the rice porridge my grandma made me when I was sick, and the pat on the back my grandpa gave me, saying, 'Pain, pain, go away,' seemed to heal me faster." The employee reminisced, almost bursting out laughing at the managing director's doting grandparents' stories. Feeling a lump in my throat, I wondered if a present for their grandparents could elicit such an emotional response. The people who helped me that day told me as I bowed, "If you think you're causing trouble, the best way to show us respect is to go and have as much fun as possible." And they set me off on my trip. I love this company, all of you, and of course my job. That's why it's so frustrating to see part-time workers and employees like me being targeted and quitting due to unreasonable demands, I voiced, mustering all the courage I could. A warm round of applause erupted from those around me. However, the manager seemed irritated by this and confronted me. "Do you think it's okay to talk like that?" she challenged. The managing director quickly reprimanded her. "Silence. If you want to stay with this company, you'll lose all your titles and privileges and be demoted to the same status as a new employee. Naturally, you'll be starting from today. So the employee who joined a little before you, Angelique, will be your senior. You should be careful with your words." Upon hearing that the president had also approved, the manager shook her head intensely and yelled, "No, I won't accept this." But there was no help for her. Instead, everyone's cold glares focused on her. "If you don't like it, you're welcome to submit a resignation letter anytime," the managing director concluded. And so the downfall of the manager known as the Empress began. Afterwards, she was literally demoted to a rank-and-file employee. She stuck around the company for a bit, but maybe she couldn't handle the tough treatment she was getting because one day, she just stopped coming in. A few days later, her resignation letter came in the mail. Around that time, our company was being covered on TV. The show titled Morning Exercise. Bonds Beyond Titles was aired, and they even talked about me and my grandparents. I heard later that the viewers loved our company rule: don't tolerate unfairness. The unjust female manager remained anonymous, but the clients clearly knew who she was. Rumor is that she doesn't stand a chance of finding a job in the same industry again. Meanwhile, our company was able to do business with my grandfather's company without any problem. Working with relatives can be a bit embarrassing, but it also keeps me on my toes. Plus, I've become even more popular within the company due to my legendary showdown with the female manager. Whoa, you're so motivated. I want to work with you once I finish graduate school. My best friend recently told me. I'm hoping that'll happen too, I replied. I've started saving again because I want to travel with my grandparents without any worries this time. It'll take time since all I can do is save bit by bit, but just sit tight, Grandma and Grandpa. I'm going to continue to cherish my precious time from here on out.